Leaders Aware everywhere. It's the Leaders Aware podcast. I'm your host, Alfonzo Jones, and I am so excited and grateful that you are here, that you thought enough about yourself and your leadership and your legacy that you chose to invest this time here with me and with you. You are literally helping to change the landscape of leadership as you listen to each of these episodes. As you are changing and you are becoming more aware. You are a part of that movement, and I'm grateful for that because we're doing this thing. We are changing the landscape of leadership. Before we get too far into the episode today, I have a request. If you are enjoying these podcast episodes, share them with somebody. Share them with a team. Share them with another leader. Because again, we're changing the landscape of leadership. So we need as many people as we can to get hold of this information so we can do this together. So we can make this movement large. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, today's conversation is about conflict. It's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I feel like has destroyed a lot of teams from the inside out. And let me tell you this story. As a kid, I hated Brussels sprouts. I just did. Couldn't stand them. To be honest, I think most kids hated Brussels sprouts in my day. And here's the thing about it. Honestly, I never really ate Brussels sprouts until I was an adult. Right? I never really ate Brussels sprouts until I was an adult, but I hated them as a kid. You want to know why? Because every sitcom that I watched where there was a family sitting down eating dinner together, the children in those episodes always hated Brussels sprouts. And the parents would have to force them, eat your Brussels sprouts, eat your Brussels sprouts. So although I had never eaten Brussels sprouts, I just thought that, you know what, I don't like them. I don't want to eat them. And this is kind of how conflict is. So conflict can be a good thing, but because we've seen it in the wrong light for so long, we just avoid it. Most people avoid conflict when they shouldn't, because conflict can be a key to connection if handled correctly. I'll give you another one. Now, this may be controversial. I don't know, pit bulls get a bad rap, in my opinion. You know, people think about pit bulls and they're thinking aggressive, mean, angry dogs. But again, it's all in how you handle them. I saw this weekend, my family and I were out in New Bern and we went to this festival and there was this pit bull. He had to be at least 50 to 75 pounds. Big dog. And you know what? This dog was hiding under cars. Like there were so many people around. It was running the cars, trying to get away from people. But it just goes to show how, people give this animal this persona based on how it's handled. And it's a lot of times it's mishandled. They're made to be angry or aggressive. So the same thing is true about conflict. Conflict has been mishandled for so long and so consistently that we think it's a negative thing, but it's not necessarily a negative thing. It can be, it does evoke some emotions, but we have to start changing the landscape of how we see and approach conflict. And today, I'm telling you, I have my notes all across the desk because I want to make sure I get every little bit of information in here so we can start really shifting this thing, because it really, again, it can be a key to connection. It can really liven up the mood of a team when we as leaders start looking at it and handling it correctly. It's gonna spread like a virus, a positive virus, that is. So let's talk about it. Again, you already know when you think about the word conflict, you normally think about what? Argument, frustrations, anger, potentially. But again, it's not necessarily that. It's not that. Now, normally when conflict occurs, or when we think about conflict, there's normally three fears that are attached to it. All right, so we have the fear of rejection, the fear of losing control, and the fear of emotional discomfort. So we think about, all right, I'm about to have this conversation or this encounter. Will this cause or damage a relationship? Will me having this conversation damage a relationship? Will they like me less because I'm having this conversation? Will they think I'm attacking them as a result of this conversation? All these things have to do with rejection. Number two, loss of control. Conflict can be very unpredictable, and that is true. But when we think about that control and the unpredictability of it, we have to embrace it, knowing that although we cannot control an individual's reaction, we can control the process. We can control the process and how we react. And that has to be the mindset as we go into it. And then emotional discomfort. Yes, conflict is uncomfortable. But when we start reframing it and thinking about it as a building block, a stepping stone, a key to connection, I'm going to use that a lot in this episode, a key to connection. Conflict is the key to connection. I like that. But when we start reframing it, we can kind of understand, and it'll help us move into that state, into that conflict with a better viewpoint, a better vantage point. It's almost like getting a shot or taking some medicine. We don't want to. We know the shot's going to be a little painful, but ultimately, this shot that we're taking may help us down the line, or this medicine that we're taking is going to help down the line. And that's the way we have to view this conflict. All right, so how do we handle it incorrectly? How do we mishandle conflict? Because this is the reason why we don't. This is the reason why we avoid it the way we do. Is because it's been mishandled so much, and we avoid it. But listen, this is the quote I have right here. The problem is avoiding conflict doesn't actually protect us. It just delays the inevitable. And when issues go unaddressed, they don't disappear. Listen to this. They grow into something worse. When issues go unaddressed, they don't disappear. They grow into something worse. And listen, you may be thinking about that right now. Is that really true? But as we assess this, as we go back in our mind's eye and think about some things that we've pushed to the side, a lot of times it grows into something that we don't even recognize. And we don't even connect the fact that because I did not address this, it turned into this. Take a minute and think about it. You may be thinking about some things like, oh man, you know what, you're right. I didn't address it. All right, so how do leaders avoid, or how do they mishandle conflict? All right, listen to this. There's some traps that we as leaders often fall into. 4 of them. All right, and you're going to fall into one of these. Number 1, avoidance. And think, you know what? I don't want to handle it. It'll take care of itself. If I just leave it alone, it'll go away. But I just told you about when it's unaddressed, it turns into something worse. So avoidance. Number 2, aggression. Now, this is the person that like overly goes into, like they're ready for battle. Like I'm ready to fight. I know I'm going to come up against some, they're going to come up against me in this. I'm going to get some kickback. So I'm ready to fight. I got my boxing gloves on. I'm just ready. Let's go. I'm Rocky going into this conversation. And that's not okay. That's not okay. People can really sense the tension when you go into a conversation, or you're going into a potential area of conflict, a discussion where you are ready to fight. People can feel that. Number 3, the passive aggression. Okay, so this is kind of like a mix between the avoidance and the aggression. So this is where the leader doesn't want to deal with it, but instead of dealing with it, they throw shots. They make little sly comments. And this is what creates a toxic environment. Okay. Yeah, you probably know some people that have done this. Don't say names right now. And then number 4, over rationalization. All right. So this is where the individual uses logic to over rationalize and they eliminate emotions. Okay. So when you eliminate emotions, that makes an individual feel unheard because you act as if the emotions don't count. Like, all right, we're just going to use logic. The emotions don't play any role in this. But we're emotional people. So when we're dealing with conflict, we have to identify the emotional element in the room. And to be honest, for those people, the uneasiness is actually an emotion, right? So we have to identify and understand these 4 components: avoidance, aggression, passive aggression, and over rationalization. Which one are you? Which category do you fall into as it relates to these 4? I'm gonna throw myself up there. I was the first one. I was the avoider. Like let's let it handle itself. I don't really want to deal with this. Too many moving parts. I'm not trying to fight. Everybody wants to fight. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to avoid it. And over time, I realized, and I really had a front row seat to a lot of drama that could have been handled had the conflict been addressed. All right. So these 4, I really need you to think about this, because again, as we as leaders become more aware, we can help change how this looks. We can grab the reins and move it more so into the to the lane where it needs to go. And these 4 traps cause conflict to be icky, sticky, uncomfortable, negative. So we really have to address those things as leaders first, because we are the first partakers. We are the ones that it can identify, and then we lead our team into a direction where we can grow, where we can connect, where we can harbor relationships and creativity as a result of actually handling this thing. The argument, the where we don't see eye to eye, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. These are the ways some of the greatest inventions were created. Some of the greatest ideas. You have to sit at the table sometimes and go back and forth. Well, I don't like this, or you don't like that. Okay, well, tell me about that. Let's get to know. Let's get to understand the why behind this. Okay, so let's be clear. Handling conflict incorrectly doesn't just destroy or slow down the process or slow down progress. It destroys trust, weakens teams, and it makes leadership infinitely harder. I'll say it again, because these quotes are killer. So handling conflict incorrectly doesn't just slow down progress, it destroys trust, weakens teams, and makes leadership infinitely harder. So we have to learn how to handle conflict correctly. How do we do that? How do we do that? Number 1, I told you I got my notes, so I'm ready today. Let me tell you, I'm so ready today. We have to reframe conflict as a growth opportunity. Okay? We really have to think about it as we're going into it that, hey, I am only looking to strengthen my team by doing this. And sometimes you have to lead with that as you're going into it with your team, with your family, with your organization. Hey, we have a growth opportunity here. Sometimes we even have to reshape, reframe the words. I know sometimes it may seem trivial, but when people hear certain words, they're triggered. And some people have heard it and seen it done wrong for so long. As soon as they hear that word, conflict, they're they're checking out mentally. Like, we need to handle this problem. We're gonna handle it head on. This is some conflict that we need to address. It's confrontation. That's the other word I was thinking about. Confrontation, right? They go hand in hand, conflict and confrontation. So these can be trigger words. But when people hear you start to address it differently, they're going to start to think, why are you saying it like that? Why are you handling it this way? Why are you approaching it this way? And then in their minds, in their brains, they can start reshaping and causing new neural pathways as it relates to this topic. And it'll eliminate that trigger. So when we go into it as a growth opportunity, we look at it as saying that, listen, we're looking to get clarity, resolution. We're not looking to battle here. So number one, we're going to reframe conflict as a growth opportunity, not as a fight. We're growing together. Number two, regulate your emotions before engaging. All right, and this can be a huge one, especially for leaders. We have to go first. We have to go first. Okay. So if you are emotionally defensive, or just emotional in general, you have to check yourself. You've got to check yourself. Take a deep breath. Understand number one, it's growth. And then understand number two, let me identify and become aware of where I am right now. Because this will dictate how I show up in this conversation. Because when it's handled wrong, it's going to go wrong. It's going to take a wrong turn. And you have to be willing to take ownership in that at any given point. Granted, we understand that it can be unpredictable. And we talked about that in the beginning about the loss of control, right? And that I want you to get this point. I want you to grasp it. That we cannot control a person's reaction, but we can control our reactions and we can control the process. That's the thing that we control. But we have to focus on the thing that we can control. We can control our emotions. But we have to be aware of them first before we move into it. Okay? Before we move into this conflict, before we move into this conversation, this confrontation, we have to be aware of our emotional state so we can correct that and we can go into this conversation with great energy and ready to steer this ship in the right direction. All right. How else do we handle it the right way? We seek to understand before being understood. Now, this is a Dale Carnegie concept that I use. Actually, one of the foundational principles of my leadership personally, because I understand that is probably one of the most important elements of any conversation. Make sure the other person feels like they're being heard and that they're being understood, right? So as a leader, we have to go first. I know a lot of times, like, well, no, I need you to understand me. I need them to understand this. But the truth of the matter is, if you are in that leadership role, it's your responsibility to understand your people. Because that's going to determine how you move. It's going to determine what step you take next. Maybe I was going to say this, but now understanding where they are, I probably shouldn't go here. I should go there. But if you're not seeking first to understand, then to be understood, you're setting yourself up for a train wreck, a disaster. So this doesn't just go for organizations and businesses. It goes for individuals and families and relationships. How can I understand you first? Let me sit and listen. Let me be quiet and listen. Let me ask you the questions. Help me understand your vantage point. Help me understand your view. Right? And even in that, again, we're leaders here. So I'm going a little deeper than just the kiddie version or surface. So even as leaders, even how we ask the question is important. So we can ask a person, help me understand your vantage point, right? But even in when we ask the question, we have to think about how we are delivering it. And if we've already gone through number two, which is, regulate those emotions, if we've already done that, it's going to help for number three when we ask those questions. But if we haven't regulated our emotional state, then it may come off wrong. You can say, no, help me because I don't understand. Help me understand what you're talking about. You see how that can come off wrong? So, as you ask the question, be sure that you ask the question the right way. Okay. So we've reframed conflict as growth. We've regulated our emotional state before engaging. And number three, we're seeking to understand before being understood. That's a huge one. That takes humility, but we have to do it. Number four, and this is another good one. Address the issue, not the person. When we're going into confrontation and conflict, a lot of times we're feeling attacked. As an individual, sometimes you can feel attacked. This is my work. This is what I'm doing. So you're attacking me. And oftentimes, as it's being delivered, it's like, you know what? This is what you did. So that's why I'm addressing you. However, there's a statement here. I feel concerned about our communication instead of saying you never listen. So we want to steer away from comments and statements that say like you, and incorporate we, like it's a team thing. How can we move forward? This is the issue. We're tackling it together. It's not I'm standing in front of you attacking you because you did this. And again, this is leadership, ladies and gentlemen. This is leadership 101. Maybe it's 301. It's that deep leadership information that we're dealing with. If you want to work as a team, you address and you speak as a team. Okay. Now, when it comes down to helping, we can help individuals. But when it comes down to addressing and making accusations and confrontations, we address we. How can we communicate better? Okay, that's on one side. But when it comes down to helping somebody, I feel, is there anything I can help you with, right? There are different sides because they trigger different emotions. So when it comes down to confrontation, again, the connotation of confrontation is normally a little more aggressive. It's like, okay, we're in trouble. The emotions are a little more heightened as opposed to help being more open, right? So when you're dealing with the conflict in this manner, it's important to think about as we construct our conversation, we construct how we're going to say what we're going to say. We think about how we're going to address the issue instead of the person. And I'm telling you, leaders, aware, when we learn how to do this, when you learn how to do this, your team is going to feel very, very comfortable having these type discussions. Because they're going to understand, they're going to feel heard, and they're going to think about, this is something that we do together. Yeah, I was in charge, I was responsible for this, but we're dealing with this together. And that's how we should do it. And then number 5, find common ground. Find common ground. This is so important as a leader because now as you're finding common ground, we're coming together. Again, I talked about being a team. When you as a leader make an attempt to find common ground, now you're pulling the person close. You're pulling them beside you. We are literally working together. In every disagreement, there is some margin, some element where you can come to an agreement, where we can come to a common ground and work from there. And even into seeking to understand before being understood, you are going to that person. You're finding out where they are, meeting them there, so that you can bring them to where they need to be. And this is where we're going, finding common ground. And to be honest, these chronological steps here, 1 through 5, they really do need to go in order, right? If you try to find common ground without regulating your emotions, there's something going to be off there. That's why the common ground is last, because you've already taken all these steps. You know this is a growth opportunity. You've regulated your emotions. You're seeking to understand before being understood. You're addressing the issue and not the person. And now you're finding common ground because you've put all these elements into play. And now here you are. And you're sitting in front of this individual and you're having this conversation. And now this conversation literally is a growth opportunity. And they didn't even know that a word like conflict could be used in this moment. Why? Because you handled it correctly. You handled it correctly. Yeah. And when we do this right, we don't tear teams apart. We actually are bringing them together. All right? So listen, we're coming up to the end of this, and this is what I want you to know. Healthy teams are not teams that don't ever fight or have disagreements. They know how to fight and have disagreements the right way. And this, as we have laid it out, this is how you do it. We've acknowledged the fears. We've acknowledged how it's been handled incorrectly. We've addressed how to handle it correctly. And now we're moving forward. We're changing the category and the way people see conflict. We are doing that as leaders. You are doing that. And I'm glad you're doing it. So here's the challenge. Instead of avoiding conflict, I want you to be intentional about addressing it. Instead of avoiding it, I want you to be intentional about addressing it. Understanding that this is how you build your team. This is how you build your team. This is how you build and strengthen relationships. By handling this confrontation, this conflict, the right way. And when we do it the right way, it's no longer a roadblock that stops us from growing. It becomes a bridge that takes us to something so much better. And you can do that. So Leaders Aware, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. Let me know about some of the conflicts that you face. I want to really know which one of the traps you fell into as it relates to the aggression, avoidance, passive aggressive, over rationalization. I want to know if that's a real thing. Maybe it's just me, but maybe I have some people out there too that can identify and can say, you know what, Alfonso, me too. You're right. But again, we're doing this together. I'm still growing. As I sit here and we have these conversations together, I'm growing with you. Again, when I say this is a movement, this is literally a movement. We're doing it together. So I am grateful that you're here with me as I grow, as we grow. Today, we are aware of how to look at conflict, how it's done incorrectly, and how to do it correctly. And now that we are aware, we make the adjustments and we do better. Like, share this episode, because we are Leaders Aware. We are changing the landscape of leadership one leader at a time. Hope you have a fantastic week, fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.